those Middle East countries don't necessarily always get along. I mean, at this moment, they may be seeming to get along, but that can change.
And they don't have railways. I mean, they don't have a tradition of railways, especially. They had it in the Hijaz at one stage, but now it's all road. So this will have to be a new venture. But I think the more important thing is a message here. That look, we are going to do it the right way. We will not in debt, we will not put countries in debt.
So who will fund this?
At the moment, the heavy lifting will have to be done by the Americans.
Oh, and the Saudis.
Americans,
and
Saudi and UAE.
They'll have to do the heavy lifting.
But Vivek, there are a lot of ifs, which as you said, the committee should go into, especially after BRI experience. Just having a railway line does not make it profitable or functional.
I agree with you.
You have to have industry, you have to have goods to be carried. To give you one example, China built a huge railway line from China up to Europe. After building it, they found that in 4 months, they had carried goods only for $400 million.
The Oriental Express.
Then they found that one Chinese port, among many, does business of $400 million in about 5 hours. So what is the point of investing so much, billions of dollars, in a railway line that goes nowhere?
Then you just end up with a white elephant, right? It has to serve some purpose. But if they're making this much of an effort, and if President Biden is leading it himself, then I'm sure they've thought this through. Hopefully they'll think through very deeply before they actually start laying the track, because it's not just the railway track, it's also data connections, so it's also pipelines which can take oil. So it's the whole gamut that's being set up. Let's see, there's no timeline to it. So it's obviously an idea out in the future. It also shows how President Biden really played a role in ensuring that this announcement was made at the Delhi G20. That's heavy lifting on part of the US president to try and ensure that there is as much as is possible in terms of takeaways in this Delhi G20.
That is as much a geopolitical statement,
Sure.
geostrategic statement as there can be.
Sure.
And I am fairly confident that the Chinese would not be particularly happy with this per se. But
Veena,
also
Secret, you want to
that
come
was
in
done
on this?
here.
The fact that this is in some ways a counter. Hardeep Puri mentioned it, but then he didn't want to sink his teeth into it because he's also minister currently and this was live television. But this is in some ways a pushback against the Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah, it is a pushback against that, but may I also point out that there will be a sea component also, so the travel from India to UAE, maybe by sea, and then you get the railroad going. So it's in very much a throwback to what the trade was between India and Europe 1,000 years ago, through the Gulf and by land, and then again partly by sea to Europe. So it's a tremendously important decision, but it's also very significant for resurrecting the relationship between USA and Saudi Arabia. And I think that the meeting between the two leaders of USA and Saudi Arabia, and then their announcing of this initiative is a very big success for President Joe Biden's visit to India as well.
Okay. The next guest, whoever it is running a few seconds late. So that gives me the opportunity to hop across to Moscow. Tatiana Kukareva joins us. Tatiana, how are you sitting in Moscow reading the G20? Okay, so just as I said that, we've now got the next guest on our screen. Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany. He picked up this injury while he was jogging. And there are lots of memes doing the rounds in Germany about him now having this pirate eye. And the good thing is he's making light of it. He's letting them have fun. He's joining in the memes as well. That's the other interesting thing, Shiv. Some of these leaders are okay taking pot shots, making fun of themselves, and aren't quite as serious or touchy as some Indian netas maybe.
I think there's no comparison. I think Americans. You've seen Joe Biden make light of the many memes around his age, his infirmities, him falling down from his bicycle. It wasn't the case until a couple of years ago. Now, with elections approaching, he's taken on a very people-friendly, internet-friendly kind of persona, and you see that across European. European. Emmanuel Macron makes light of himself quite often, and he's mercilessly ribbed. In the press, the French press is among the most ruthless when it comes to lampooning its politicians. He makes light of it. Rishi Sunak I just noticed Rishi Sunak has retweeted stuff where he's, lampooned as well in the British
In India,
tabloids.
the Netas say make fun of us, but actually they
I think that has a
don't make
lot to
fun of
do
us.
with our culture
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can't forget the milieu in which
There's a
our
dark
politics-
line between humor and the seriousness of politics.
There was a time. There was a time when things were a little different. When a Lakshman cartoon, for example, if it even lampooned a senior politician, was taken.
No, here
Well,
our
but
Netas
now
will say you can make fun of us, but actually they don't want you to make fun of them. Tatiana Kukureva joins us. There's been a dilution on Russia's aggression against Ukraine in that joint statement. What are you, sitting where you are in Moscow, ma'am, making of the Delhi declaration? Welcome and sorry to have kept you waiting, ma'am.
No, good day to you. Good evening, I should say, to you and your viewers in India. I'm actually in Sochi, in the south of the country. Look, I think that the divisions that we've heard of on the conflict in Ukraine is a huge development, and it shows just how the opinions are changing, how the scenery is changing, and some countries are starting to finally see that there's more than one position to that issue, and that's a very important change in the matter for me sitting here in Russia.
Sure, and that's Anthony Albanese. Albo is at Bharat Mandapam again with his better half. Again, Prime Minister Modi very enthusiastically giving the full Nalanda intro so that they have a sense of the university backdrop. Lord Nataraj shining there, glistening in the light. The next guest coming up now is wearing a lovely sari, his better half, the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. And don't miss, I think we can do a whole story on this, that lovely sari that Mrs. Kishida is wearing. How delightful.
And she's wearing it so elegantly.
I'm sure she must have had a lot of help in that, but nonetheless, this is competition. Akshata Murthy has now some competition coming in, and it's a delightful gesture this from Mrs. Kishida. The wife of the Japanese Prime Minister wearing an Indian sari.
But was it own initiative or was it sponsored initiative?
Matlab?
Saris, like in ASEAN, the guests are given dress.
No, but she's chosen to wear it, and sari is not easy to wear.
No, there must have been someone.
No, sure, but you still have to have a high level of enthusiasm to want to wear it. Let Veena Sikri speak about that. I think she's the right person. This gesture of Mrs. Kishida wearing this delightful Indian sari, ma'am. Okay.
Sometimes hosts arrange all these.
Oh, sure, that's possible.
ASEAN, they have that. Yeah,
So
they
I
have
think
that
we are
tradition. I don't think. Many haven't actually. See.
No, but it's a statement. It
Yeah,
also
it is.
shows how close Japan is to India, especially to the Prime Minister, who even while he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, spent so much of his energy and equity on building that relationship, wanting to make it as deep and as meaningful as is possible. And Japan, a key partner in the Quad. So Japan, India, Australia, the United States, Shiv, coming together as a counterbalancing force against China, even though it's not overtly projected as such, but the messaging is very clear.
I'm sure there's going to be something from Global Times in a short while from now, Rahul. I saw your tweet a short while ago, Rahul, about this initiative. The amount of heavy lifting it would have taken by our foreign policy machinery, and the assistance of friends like the United States, Europe, India's friends in the Middle East. If that didn't all align and come together quickly, this couldn't have been possible. And this is highly complicated. As Ambassador Karchu said, the elements of this initiative actually
Ursula
emerging.
von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, on our screen right now. Again, being initiated to the Nalanda University, appointed as President in July 2019. First woman to serve in this role. We had an interview out with her. She used to be the German Defense Minister, long-time ally of Chancellor Angela Merkel. And in that interview, she spoke quite firmly about wanting to build bridges with India and take that relationship forward. Earlier, the European Union was the one bloc of countries that were a member of the G20. Now the African Union will be on the high table as well. The European Union, of course, India's second largest export market. I just wonder how long Delhi will stay like this. I mean, all these things that have been put up, it's looking quite glorious. Whether they can maintain it, ensure that the upkeep stays this way, it'll be interesting to see how long it goes on for. But for the moment, Delhi looking resplendent.
For the moment, no complaints, except in the Western media.
Oh, they are? Are they? Oh, God.